Before MXC, there were plans for fully Americanized versions of the physical challenge game show Takeshi's Castle in the late 80s and early 90s. Two different situations, 3 failed pilots, potentially lost media, millions of dollars lost, a hot mess. This story has it all. Today, we look back at the pilots of King of the Mountain and Storm the Castle, what happens behind the scenes, and why they weren't picked up. Alright, let's go! Our story begins with Fox. No, not that Fox. Fox the TV channel. Fox today is one of the big 4 networks on American TV, but in 1988, the big 4 was the big 3. Fox is by far the youngest of the 4 main networks and was still trying to gain a foothold in the television space. Less than a year after Fox launched primetime programming, the Writers Guild of America went on strike, which was a major blow to the budding network. The biggest show Fox had was Married with Children, but the show hadn't fully taken off yet. With no writers working, they had to put the sitcom on hold as well as postpone and ultimately cancel 2 shows slated for fall. Not all was doom and gloom for Fox though. Just like its competitors, Fox pivoted to producing unscripted content during the strike. Among Fox's unscripted shows in production was an American version of the Japanese game show Takeshi's Castle. Contestants run, jump, and climb their way to victory across absurd physical challenges, all for the chance to take down Count Takeshi and take home 1 million yen. This American version was titled King of the Mountain. Once Fox secured the rights to make the show, producer Stephen Chow of Fox Square Productions traveled to Japan to be on the set of Takeshi's Castle, which he described as an awful lot of fun. While he was there, he and others on his team had legal questions like if people were ever injured on set or, in his words, quote, how on earth they could do all these dangerous things and get away with it, unquote. Takeshi's Castle isn't as dangerous as it seems. Across its 133 episode run, there was never an injury that made headlines. One recurring complaint was getting sick from the untreated water, but otherwise, the show was shockingly safe compared to how it looked on TV. After seeing the Japanese show in person, Chow went on to making its American counterpart. This King of the Mountain pilot was filmed February 6th and/or 7th, 1988, hosted by John "Tooz" Matuzak, one of his final projects before his passing, and newscaster Mark Thompson. Not to be confused with the New York voice actor, that's Mark with a C. Takeshi's Castle producer Kunihiko Katsura went to the US to aid with production. Footage of this pilot is limited and believed to be lost media. I say believed to be because Takeshi's Castle superfan Joshua Murphy said he may know someone who has a copy. The only footage available right now is from the International Battle Special of Takeshi's Castle, episode 106, in which Stephen Chow and King of the Mountain's winner Bob Ledesma and runner-up Val were contestants, along with folks from countries around the world that had their own versions of Takeshi's Castle. In the footage available, King of the Mountain had the games Dragon God Pond, Star Bowling, a game that is unclear but may be Swamp of the Border, Mushroom Plop, and This Is Ball Run. Fox spent $1 million building the set. Despite all the money that was dumped into it, come March 1988, the pilot was confirmed to be canceled. Stephen Chow speculated the reason why it was canned. Quote, I think the pilot was fun, but I think it was missing the fun, lightness, and insanity that the Japanese show had. Our show was more like a contest like Battle of the Network Stars or something, and I think it missed the fun quotient by enough that it wasn't good enough to be picked up as a series, unquote. Mark Thompson expressed his disappointment that the pilot was canceled, saying he saw the episode and found it funny. He was later quoted in 1990 saying, quote, the pilot had lots of problems, the main one being that it never aired, unquote. King of the Mountain's producers fell in love with Takeshi's Castle though, and put together a second pilot to better capture the magic of the Japanese version. Fox was committed to giving this series a slot on their Saturday night schedule along with the hour-long show The Reporters. The pair of shows was to be added on either July 23rd or 30th and replace reruns of ratings bombs Dirty Dozen the Series and Boys Will Be Boys. In publications, King of the Mountain was noted to be based on a Japanese game show and described as, quote, sort of a grown-up Double Dare as it features adults doing funny physical challenges, unquote. Which is funny because the Japanese Takeshi's Castle predates Double Dare by 5 months. Fox Vice President Brad Terrell noted, quote, we'll be testing the Reporters and King of the Mountain during the summer, and if they're a hit, we'll bring them back in the fall. A lot of our plans hinge on how long the writer's strike continues, unquote. The second King of the Mountain pilot was absolutely not meeting that deadline because filming didn't begin until July 24th, 1988 at Newhall Ranch in Valencia, California at 9 in the morning, hosted by the late comedians John Mulrooney and Judy Toll. The producers chose Mulrooney because they knew him from being one of the rotating guest hosts on The Late Show that year. There were 10 contestants instead of the usual roughly 100 on the show's Japanese counterpart, competing for a vacation for two to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and $1,000 cash. Also, unlike the Japanese version, there was a point system instead of just someone losing a game and being out. The games played were Dragon God Pond, renamed, I can't say what it was renamed, so let's just call it Alligator Swamp. Star Bowling, renamed Human Bowling, Wall to Freedom, renamed Doors of Deception / Door of Doom, Roller Game, which wasn't named in King of the Mountain but was played as a tiebreaker, and as the finale, This is Ball Run, renamed Boulder Mountain. Another difference from Takeshi's Castle is the lack of unique characters. This was a deliberate decision on Stephen Chow's part. He couldn't make a natural through line for characters like in the original show, so forewent their inclusion. So how did this show play out? To quote John Mulrooney in retrospect, quote, "It was a fun show, but it was very rough," unquote. And rough it was.
John and I are so excited, we're about to spontaneously combust.
Indeed they were, because this was being shot in the desert in 100+ degree Fahrenheit heat. The weather was so hot, people in the stands were passing out. Fox's then president Barry Diller rode in on his motorcycle to see the show, but the temperatures were so high that he needed to ride back to the city in a helicopter used for long camera shots. The heat wasn't the only health hazard. Because this was shot in the desert, snakes were hiding under the props. There was a snake wrangler on set, and Mulrooney himself saw the snake wrangler, well, wrangle a rattlesnake from under a prop boulder. Thankfully, no one was hurt by these slithering reptiles, but the same can't be said about the boulders themselves. The boulders in King of the Mountain were made of vulcanized rubber, foam core, and compressed air, and rolled down the mountain at about 25 miles per hour. Mulrooney compared getting hit by one of them to being sacked by a linebacker. As seen here, contestant Taryn got decked by one of these boulders and was caught by a stagehand, and the footage cut away before she was put back onto the track. They didn't get footage of her running to the finish line, so she had to tough it out, get to the end, and congratulate the winner. It turned out Taryn had dislocated her arm, so she was promptly put on a stretcher and driven to the hospital. In the end, contestant Jason won the final challenge and received the grand prize, thus ending the second and final King of the Mountain pilot. While the show didn't make the July 30th air date, reports listed King of the Mountain as quote-unquote still in development, so it was still slated to air eventually. Fox was continuing to develop quote-unquote strike-proof shows, but the writer's strike would end on August 7th, 1988, mere days after King of the Mountain was filmed. Even in the months after filming, newspapers reported the show as having a TBD air date. But 1989 was a big year for Fox. Thanks to protests, Married with Children saw a surge in viewership. Furthermore, America's Most Wanted continued to be a hit with Nielsen ratings. And then along came a spin-off of the Tracy Ullman show called The Simpsons, and the rest is history. It wasn't until July 28, 1990, just over 2 years after filming, that King of the Mountain would hit airwaves at 9 p.m. Eastern Time as summer filler. The producers liked the show, but not as much as the Japanese version. The pilot was put on the air to test the waters with audiences, as there was always the chance this could catch on with viewers. Of course, this airing would be a one-time thing, and thankfully this pilot of King of the Mountain is preserved to watch online. Mulrooney was surprised King of the Mountain wasn't picked up, but even if it was picked up, Chow noted there are fundamental differences between the East and West that would equate to the US version imitating but not replicating what made the Japanese version great. In Japan, competitors are eliminated and kind of laugh it off, but in the US there is such a different, more angered response that kind of takes the fun out of it. The other problem is, well, legal liability. The second pilot had a major injury, and Chow said something like that could shut down a production completely in the US, whereas that's not so much of a worry in Japan. That comment does cause me to wonder how much trouble they got in with Taryn dislocating her arm, if any. Thus ends the story of King of the Mountain. But there was a divergent evolution of Americanizing Takeshi's Castle done by another producer for another network. Meet Vin Di Bona. If you don't know his name, you probably know his work, as he's most famous for being the creator and producer of America's Funniest Home Videos. AFV is an American version of the home movie segment from a Japanese variety show called Fun TV with Kato-chan and Ken-chan. AFV's format was sold in partnership with Tokyo Broadcasting System and US-based Bellon Entertainment. Di Bona worked with TBS before to make the game show Animal Crackups out of their game show Exciting Animal Land, and was looking to go 3 for 3 by turning TBS's Takeshi's Castle into an American TV series. Work on the show, coincidentally, began in 1988 after Di Bona first saw the Japanese version, but he didn't sell the show to CBS until early 1992 under the name Storm the Castle. Di Bona leaned into the DNA of the Japanese version more heavily than Fox's King of the Mountain did. Takeshi's Castle was largely inspired by games on Nintendo's Famicom, released outside Japan as the NES, so Di Bona pushed hard into the Nintendo angle when discussing Storm the Castle. Quote, "It's like a giant Nintendo game that's played outside with amusement park-like stunts, and the end result is if you fail the stunt, you wind up in the mud. It's not mean-spirited, it's all just pure fun. And we have parents and children and parents with children playing together." Unquote. Additionally, he noted, quote, "It's designed so ordinary people can do it and sometimes fall down. That's what the premise is, to watch people fall down." Unquote. 3 months and $1 million later, the set for Storm the Castle was built on the backlot of Universal Studios Hollywood. Di Bona wanted the show to double as a theme park attraction if the show was picked up as a series. According to Di Bona, quote, "Universal agreed to tape the game on its premises to combat complaints that tourists seldom see production in progress on its famed tour." Unquote. The pilot premiered on CBS on June 16, 1993 at 8 p.m. Eastern as an hour-long special, hosted by Michael Berger and Nellie Galan. Storm the Castle had a more colorful set than King of the Mountain, more competitors in play, more money on the line, and licensed characters like Beetlejuice being the American substitutes for Count Takeshi's minions, called Gremlins in Storm the Castle. The guy playing Beetlejuice was clearly having a blast.
"Hey, would you care for a worm?" "Just kidding, go! Eat it! Get out of here!"
The games played and their respective name changes include Boundary Slope served as an elimination round to narrow down the families with the added element of hunting for tennis balls. This game show otherwise had a point-based system like King of the Mountain. Devil's Mansion became Devil's Domain. Beach Boys and Gals had the "and" abbreviated to "n". Star Bowling, just like King of the Mountain, became Human Bowling. Gah! I don't know became Mud Bath Math. Weight of Parent-Child became Family Togetherness. Dragon God Pond became Stepping Stones. Hey, I can say this one on YouTube. Mushroom Plop became Spinning Mushroom. Adventure Zone became The Gauntlet. Stabber Bee Stabbed was reworked to not so closely resemble Pop-Up Pirate and became Dunk Your Parents. And the grand finale was a game unique to Storm the Castle where contestants had to pop all their balloons first, with the last one being popped by the youngest in the family. Some shots also show a set for Don't Drop the Ball, although it's unknown if this was played during filming. And thankfully, there were no injuries reported in this show. Vin Di Bona saw something special in this concept just like Stephen Chow and the King of the Mountain team did, but CBS executives and critics weren't seeing it. Before the pilot even aired, CBS confirmed Storm the Castle would be a one-time special, and critics panned the pilot. Almost every review I could find unfavorably compared the show to American Gladiators and Double Dare, one even calling the show an outright clone of Double Dare. The only positive review I could find called it good, clean family fun and praised the commentary of the hosts. Young kids interviewed by the Palm Beach Post, though, seemed to enjoy it, but unfortunately for them, this is the end of the story for Storm the Castle. No dislocated arms, no heat stroke, just a simple case of a producer having a vision and the network executives not following. There was clearly an audience for Takeshi's Castle in English-speaking countries, and a way to make it work in the States. Clips of the Japanese show aired on variety shows in the Anglosphere to the amazement and curiosity of viewers and hosts, but how could this show work for an English-speaking audience? Well, over the next 2 videos, we'll see how 2 different creative teams in 2 different parts of the world made Takeshi's Castle garner a Western following. Shout out to all of my supporters on Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube, and a special shout out to my Mass Muchacho tier patron Coops. If you want to be listed here, gain access to my exclusive Discord server, and watch these videos early, please consider supporting me on any of these platforms. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and leave in the comments what did you think of King of the Mountain and Storm the Castle. Would you have watched these if the pilots became series? If you have a suggestion on what I should cover next, the link to the suggestion form is on screen now. Special thanks to Takeshi's Castle superfan Joshua Murphy for helping with corrections and information. The link to his YouTube channel is on screen now. Also, Josh is hosting a BGM challenge. This is unaffiliated with Takeshi's Castle or TBS. This is just for himself. If you, yes, you, can identify currently unidentified songs used in Takeshi's Castle, Josh is offering a monetary reward. Check the link on screen and in the description for more details. Also, a special thanks to Kay for being my script editor. That's right, I have a script editor now. After the last 3 episodes had a runtime totaling 6 hours of content, working on something like this felt like a breath of fresh air. But given later videos talking about Takeshi's Castle will be longer, this relaxing pace will not last for long. I know a lot of you are looking forward to MXC and maybe even the UK versions, but we'll get to those very soon. Anyways, thanks for watching everyone. Until next time, take care, and remember, don't get eliminated!